non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
Take a pass.
I'm picking against the Giants.
Oh, my God.
I'm picking against the Giants.
You can't do that. You've been killing me on Cousins every single. Matter of fact, do you know when they were killing Minnesota? So when Minnesota was getting killed, and this is on New Year's Day.
Yes.
He against Green Bay. I'll give you one guess. Who called me at 5:45 in the afternoon when I'm sitting there watching all the other games, betting my rear end off? Who calls me? This man here,
This man here?
killing me on Cousins. Now you're going to pick for him? That's not fair.
Bet my rear end off.
Bet my rear end off.
Oh my God.
Cousins.
Doggy, man. I love the doggy.
He's the
I'm
best.
sorry. It
The
just works so
dog,
well.
man.
Stephen A's like laughing too. Like Stephen
now-
A just works so well.
And now Francesa's all jealous because the dog is on ESPN all the time. All right, as the world debates Cousins or Daniel Jones, and the world really debates more based on the data here, how much money they want to bet on the Giants, not whether they will. We sit here, Daily Vikings Entertainment on Purple Daily, just kind of plugging along, giving you information leading up to the game here in the state of the offense today, gentlemen. 4 categories, which we'll get to, that kind of touch on some different end of the season themes and look ahead to this game themes. But this is Daily Vikings Entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl at some point before we die. That's the mission statement around here. It's the only thing they've yet to accomplish really as a franchise. And we appreciate you guys for making this podcast, Purple Daily, one of the most popular football podcasts in America in 2022. So thank you so much, whether you consume on YouTube or whether you consume on Apple or Spotify or ScoreNorth.com, the app. It all counts the same for us, and we appreciate it. The show is presented by our friends at TCL. Redefine creativity with the TCL 30V 5G smartphone. Enjoy blazing fast 5G speed, an AI-powered 50-megapixel triple camera system, ultra-realistic, true-to-life visuals, powered by Next Vision, and booming sound from the dual speakers. Learn more at TCL.com. And the official craft beer of Purple Daily, which is Surly Brewing Company, Judd.
Yep, and as the game nears, guess what? You're going to want to have your fridge stocked with Surly's to either celebrate a playoff victory or perhaps drown your sorrows. But either way, Surly is the team. It's the beer that offers you so many fantastic options. We've got Axeman, we've got Furious, Before I Die, which is the entire mission. Logic Bomb. I could go on, but I won't. I'll just say head to your local liquor store and find your Surly for the weekend. And then, as always, show us your cans on Twitter. I'm at Jay Zolgad or at Score North. We always love to see you sipping on a can of Surly. Hopefully, it's a celebratory can of Surly on Sunday.
Oh. Declan, how do you feel about the self-restraint there from Judd, deciding not to go on and on? Right?
Yeah, I was very impressed. I thought we were going to continue going, all this stuff. Great Surly Brewing Company, then Surly Dave. We got the tap room. We got all this.
I love to talk about Surly. I'm going to tell you that right now. Love our sponsors.
Yep, they're amazing. We appreciate you supporting our sponsors. All right, state of the offense. Let's just get right into it here, because and Declan also has a twist later on Random Viking of the Week that we don't really know anything about. We're going to find out all together here. But the state of the offense, we'll start with the overall snapshot. The Vikings finished the regular season 8th in points per game, 11th in yards per play, but 9th or 7th, somewhere in there, in total yards. They ran more plays than some other teams. So 8th in points per game, 11th in yards per play, 20th in DVOA, Football Outsiders, analytical, and 18th in expected points added. So that's the story of their season, right? Their process looks flawed. It's not sustainable. And yet after 4 months of football, they were a top 10 scoring offense. That's the highest they've ranked in a long. I don't think they were ever as high as 8th under Mike Zimmer. They might have sniffed 9th one time, somewhere in that range.
2017, I think they were in the top 10, correct?
Like
I think that might be the last time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before that, I think you got to go back to like 2009, the last time they were a top 5 offense. So it's been a while since we saw offense like this around these parts.
So I would like to see more consistency for sure. Like again, this entire team put together just a few complete games, which they didn't do consistently on both sides of the ball. Certainly the defense is a different story. But I would say that, like, if you were to really dig down into what this offense did and did not do, I think the only thing I would call a major disappointment is the run game. Like, they were what in total yards there? 28th?
Oh,
yeah.
It was bad.
Yeah,
yep.
That's really bad. But like when we're talking, I think that we sat here on this show when O'Connell got the job and basically said, you need to become a top 10 scoring offense, ideally top 5. But I think our mandate was, if you're going to be like a playoff team, top 10. And they did. So the process can be improved. The process might be flawed. But all of that being said, the most important statistic is, do you score? The Vikings didn't score consistently, but they did score. So in some ways, for year one, with personnel that certainly was not all KOCs, I think it's mostly a win.
Yeah,
mostly
I agree.
A win.
If you would have told me, just forget about the analytics for a second, just said, hey, they're gonna play 17 games and they will have the 8th highest scoring offense in the NFL, I would say, okay, sign me up. That's fine. I didn't think they were going to have this bad of defense, but and I've got a nugget for you on that, courtesy of one of our listeners. But let's start with the first category here, and it's going to be I wanted to try and find something that encapsulated Cousins and what he's about to face against the Giants for the second time, which is the highest blitz rate in the NFL. And in my research for this, it sort of turned into that's an interesting group to be a part of if you're looking for this team to win a Super Bowl. So let me lay this out for you guys. So the category is Cousins against the Giants blitzes, but it morphs into something else. So the Giants and Wink Martindale, their defensive coordinator, are the most blitz-happy team in the NFL by a mile. They blitz on like 40% of dropbacks. The next closest team is like 33%. So they're sending everybody. And our guy Alex Boone did a great job of kind of breaking down some of the exotic blitz looks that they show you on the Trenches episode this morning. So check that out. But the problem with the Giants blitzes is it doesn't necessarily lead to a ton of effectiveness. Like they don't generate a ton of turnovers. They get some sacks, but they're kind of mid-pack in sacks. So they're sending a lot of guys, but they're not always terrorizing offenses, which leaves openings down the field to make plays, which is exactly what Cousins did in their first meeting. He got blitzed a ton, but in that first meeting, he threw for 171 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions on just the plays he was blitzed on. Mm-hmm. So now there's going to be adjustments and counters and whatever to what happened in that first game. But I would look at that and say, okay, bring on the Giants blitzing. The Vikings seem to handle it fairly well. Now, I think they also had Brian O'Neill played in that game, and he's not going to play in this game. So that's something. But for Cousins to throw for $171, 2 touchdowns, no picks on just the blitzes in that first matchup makes me think, okay, they can handle it.
So the Giants defense too, first of all, I think what they do, because if you look at their total defensive stats, they're not that great. They were 25th in total defense, giving up 358.2 yards per game. In scoring defense, now the Vikings were terrible, 30th. The Giants were tied for 17th with Green Bay, 21.8 points per game. I would compare, I think this game is going to come remarkably close in some ways, but Cousins is a far more effective and better quarterback. If you guys recall the 2007 first round playoff game here against Philadelphia, Childress' first team to make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So Tavares Jackson came back late in that year to start at quarterback. And in the regular season finale here, the Vikings played the Giants, and Steve Spagnuolo blitzed Tavares, same thing, exotic blitzes. So like just to create confusion. And I watched that game and I thought, are they really going to start Tavares against Philly? Because Jim Johnson, who's now deceased, but he was the DC and Spagnuolo was a disciple of his. And they did start Tavares, and Jim Johnson sent blitz after blitz after blitz.
He threw that just really bad pick six right away.
Samuel, exactly. And so I think that that's the basis of these ideas on blitzing. So this is where it is on Kirk. Because if Kirk can defeat the blitzes, because to your point, Phil, it's not like it's the steel curtain. It's not like, oh my God, what are we going to do? It is this. We're going to make your life difficult. But if you can decipher that and beat us, you're going to have a very good chance to win. And so that's where there's a cat and mouse game that I think, if you're the Vikings, is ultimately a winnable cat and mouse game.
And they will, and the Giants will not shy away from blitzing. They're not going to look and say, well, Cousins lit up our blitzes last time around. They're going to look at the whole season, Cousins against the blitz, which was he was really bad against the blitz overall, except for that game. So when he was blitzed this season, he ranked 34th in passer rating, 35th in yards per attempt, 37th in completion percentage, and had the 5th most turnover-worthy plays. So you'd look at that and say, well, let's try it again if you're the Giants and see if he makes some bad passes or panics or whatever. But the flip side of this, and this is where this research I was doing kind of took a turn for the better if you're a Vikings fan. Cousins, when he's pressured, blitzing and pressure aren't the same thing. You can blitz and not get home. You can blitz and it doesn't actually equate to pressure.
Yep.
And you can rush 4 and it does equate to pressure. So blitzing and pressure, there's probably an overlap in Venn diagram, but when Cousins is blitzed, he's bad. But oddly, when Cousins is pressured, he was pretty great this season. So he was 6th in passer rating when pressured. He was 10th in completion percentage when pressured, and he was 2nd in yards per attempt when pressured. And I remember at the end of last season, one of the biggest conversations we had throughout once Kevin O'Connell got hired, and he talked about playing with a quiet mind, right? And we must have cited this a million times between like January and training camp, that the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFL in 2021, yards per attempt against pressure, were Matthew Stafford and Joe Burrow. The 2 quarterbacks that faced each other in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. You have to, it's not about just putting up stats. You have to be good to great when the opposing defenses are barreling down on you, right? So again, 2021, the 2 best quarterbacks against pressure, yards per attempt being the measurement, where Joe Burrow and Matthew Stafford played each other in the Super Bowl. Cousins was 32nd in 2021 in that category. 32nd.
Yep.
This year, like I just said, he ranked 2nd in yards per attempt against pressure, behind only Josh Allen. So if last year, if the number 1 and number 2 guys was a Super Bowl preview, which it turned out to be, kind of interesting that Josh Allen and Kirk Cousins are the number 1 and number 2 on that list.
Yeah, and that's a credit to Kirk as well, obviously. But it's also a credit to KOC, who's done a magnificent job of finding ways to both quiet Kirk's mind and also create options, right? Like clearly they watch film, they talk about things that weren't previously discussed by Kirk and Zim, or Kirk, who knows, and Kubiak. But Phil, this is also where I think from what you talked about that Boone discussed on the trenches, this is also why I don't think, and I'm not just trying to be a smart ass here by saying I think that the idea of 13 personnel, 1 running back and 3 tights actually works at times. Because think about this. But I mean, think about this for Kirk, okay? 13 personnel. But right now, football people are saying, are you crazy? 13 personnel, that takes wide receivers off the field. This is a high-flying team that loves 11 personnel. What are you talking about? And here's what I think the difference is. If you go 13 personnel at times, first of all, that's a look the Giants have not seen. Like the Vikings did not, for the most part, do that much, if at all. Second of all, Irv Smith is not great, but he's not terrible, and he fits the mold of Hawkinson a little bit more. The Hawk's better, but he fits that mold.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a tight end lined up by Johnny Munt to also chip, or I'm sorry, if Munt is lined up by the right tackle Oliudo to chip, think about this. Would you rather have potentially packages that deploy Jefferson, Hawkinson, and Smith, or Jefferson and Thielen? And I'm not saying I wouldn't play Thielen. I would.
Look at you're benching Thielen.
But I'm saying I'm
benching Thielen.
I'm not benching him. I'm just saying. Think about the mobility there, because really what you're talking about is Thielen really doesn't have more moves, unfortunately, because of his either age or just the fact that he's currently hurt worse than we know. But Hockenson and Smith probably have more mobility to run after the catch. So now if I just chipped a guy coming off the left end and I can get two guys into patterns, and the Giants haven't seen this look, and Kirk loves to throw to those guys, it just makes a ton of sense to alleviate the pressure as quickly as possible.
Yeah. I could see, I think they're going to throw some weird stuff. And plus, like, these two teams just played each other in a close, hard-fought game. You got to throw something different.
Yep.
And you did win the game, but, you know, there's got to be another curveball or two. I asked Boone this on the Trenches episode, too. Okay, do you go into this, what do you expect the Giants to do defensively to counter what worked for you the first time around? TJ Hockenson caught 13 passes in that game. Jefferson caught 12, but he catches 12. It wasn't like, oh my God, he caught 12 passes. He caught 12 passes in every game. So Hockenson caught 13, which was a career high. Do you go in expecting the Giants to just, hey, that's going to be half of our focus, is not letting that happen again? Or do you just say, well, it worked last time, so until they can prove they can stop TJ Hockenson, we're going to keep forcing the ball to TJ Hockenson? Where do you land on that chess match? Do you anticipate what they might do to adjust, or do you just keep doing what was working a month ago, 3 weeks ago? That's right, like smarter people than me who actually work in the NFL have to figure out what to do.
You got to change up the looks. Like, you got to give them you still want Hockenson to play a key role, but you got to give them things they haven't seen.
Yeah, I love this.
And that's where Irv Smith is a curveball. Again, I am not on that train now. I'm not saying bring Irv Smith back. I still think he's great, but I think that he is a curveball that can be a fly in the ointment, and the Giants can't prepare for things that they have not seen.
Yeah. What a first category right there. You get into the adjustments the Vikings can make.
Playoff week.
Kirk Cousins, much better against pressure this year, playing with a more quiet mind, which is what Kevin O'Connell talked about. Mm-hmm. Category number 2. This one comes in from one of our crazy Canadian Cousins Crusaders. Brent emailed into the show. And the category is going to be, I guess I was going to say it's sort of a historical achievement. I'm going to say, could it be a preview of what's to come in a month? That's the name of this category. Judd, you already know the answer to this because you were on the email chain. But I'm going to ask Declan. Mm-hmm. Over the last 20 years, only 2 teams with bottom 5 scoring defenses. 20 years. Over the last 20 years, only 2 teams with bottom 5 scoring defenses have made the playoffs. This year's Vikings. Three guesses as to who the other one was. It's not a Vikings team.
I'm going to go with 2012 Ravens.
It's a good guess. Their defense was pretty darn good. You're close in that the team that I'm going to give you did make the Super Bowl.
Okay. 2007 Giants?
Sniffing around. He's sniffing around.
Got one more guess.
Okay.
Unleash it, baby.
Sniffing around.
Unleash it.
Packers defense was good. Hold on. They made the Super Bowl, so...
Sniff.
Oh, wasn't it a Patriots team? Wasn't one of the Patriots teams not good?
It was not. They mostly had good defenses. It was the 2008 Arizona Cardinals.
Oh, okay. Actually,
I wouldn't have got that.
Makes sense, but yeah, okay.
And there are some really interesting parallels here. So first of all, like, congrats to the Vikings offense, Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, Kevin O'Connell, for overcoming one of the 5 worst scoring defenses in the league. It doesn't happen often, twice in the last 20 years, that you can even make the playoffs giving up that many points. But the 2008 Cardinals, who went 9-7, they had the veteran, rock-solid pocket passer quarterback, eventually became a Hall of Famer, Kurt Warner. You had the young, unstoppable star wide receiver in Larry Fitzgerald. He was like 25 years old that season. They absorbed multiple blowouts in the regular season in 2008. They lost. If you think the Vikings are frauds, they kept getting blown out. The 2008 Cardinals lost 56-35 to the Jets that year, 48-20 to the Eagles, 35-14 to the Vikings. That was the game where didn't T-Jack come back and throw a bunch of touchdowns against the Cardinals?
They just clinched.
Yeah.
The
Cardinals had clinched.
And the Cardinals were drunk and high all week.
That's awesome.
And then they lost 47-7 to the Patriots. Two of those games, one of them they weren't really playing anyone, but two of those games were in December, by the way. So they just got drubbed like 4 different times. They dust themselves off. Home game, because they won their division at 9-7. So they play a home game wild card weekend. They win that game, build some confidence, and then boom, all of a sudden score 30 points, 30 more points, get the ball rolling, and they wind up making the Super. They had a lead in the second half of that Super Bowl too, and that was the Steelers came up. Yep.
Yeah.
So again, and the other parallel too, that season in the NFC 2008, there wasn't really a juggernaut team in the NFC. There was the Eli Manning Giants coming off of the Super Bowl win from 2007, and they were good, but not like an elite team. And then the other top seed, the other bye team, was the Jake Delhomme Panthers. Those teams were 12-4. So it's a little bit like this year where you got, there's Tom Brady's lurking there, but he's 45 years old. Yeah. And the Eagles have not been the same team the last month. The Cowboys put up clunkers. So it's kind of a wide open. I saw so many parallels between the 2008 Cardinals and the 2022 Vikings. It's a really interesting nugget.
Do you see a parallel in quarterbacks?
I mean, kind of.
Because that's the key thing then, right?
I mean, the difference, obviously, is Kurt Warner was given a couple of really good cars to drive, and he bleeping drove them.
Well,
and drove them to the Super Bowl. And
what's funny is, in Cousins' defense, Warner looked to be toast because he went from the Rams to the Giants.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember he played a game at Lambeau Field with the Giants that I covered, and it looked like it was over. It looked like it was done. So, like, that was not the same guy from the Rams. To his credit, came back and played great. But there were a lot of people, I think, that when Warner went to the Cardinals, who sort of thought, I don't know. So
he wasn't even that effective when he first. I mean, he was battling with Matt Leinart to be the starting guy before he really took it by the reins and took things over. So yeah, it took him a little bit, even like a year or two into Arizona, to get comfortable and be Kurt Warner again.
So that's kind of now that Cardinals team. It's funny, they actually had 3,000-yard receivers on that team.
Mm-hmm.
Fitzy, Bolden, Anquan Bolden,
and Steve Breston, I think.
Steve Breston.
Was
great
fantasy flex option in Steve Breston. That was a late round, just great pick.
But at the end of the year, he had about the same yardage total. He just distributed it to 3 guys exclusively, whereas the Vikings have their 3 receivers. They have Hawkinson and some other guys catching the ball too. Mm-hmm. So, and were the 2008 Cardinals frauds? Well, no, because their record was what it was supposed to be. They were a 9-7 team with some flaws that then got hot in the playoffs and went to the Super Bowl. And that's where, like, Judd, you've been making this point. If the Vikings, instead of being a 13-win team, if they were like a 10 or 11-win team where they're more supposed to be, people would talk about them differently going into these playoffs.
Yes. If the Giants had won 13 games, would they be called frauds?
If they had an even point differential,
wins.
If they had a -6 point differential, which is,
but I think they're minus. Yeah. So I think what this comes down to, going back in our conversations about this conference for months now, I think that you're exactly right. It's wide open. Philadelphia with Hurts back might be good. But San Francisco, I love them.
They have a third-string quarterback.
Brock Purdy's playing quarterback for him. So, like, I can't be like, oh, my God, no one's going to beat them. Mm-hmm. I mean, who knows? That dude could choke.
I know.
Against Seattle.
It's an amazing team. Their coach could choke. Keep in mind, Kyle Shanahan is excellent, but Kyle Shanahan also was the offensive coordinator, right, for that Falcons team that could not score in the second half of a Super Bowl.
Exactly. So, that's the thing to me is success in this conference this season, to me, is about taking advantage of opportunity too.
The Niners also choked away a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl. That's right.
Twice.
Yeah,
So
that's true though.
again, they're probably the favorites to come out. No one is saying, that because, and for those reasons, the Vikings are favorites. They're not favorites, but
No.
people need to course correct the
Well,
narrative a little bit here.
And let's not forget Brock Purdy. It's not like, well, he's a young quarterback, but they took him 3rd overall. He is the last pick in a draft.
Mr.
Like
Irrelevant.
the pressure now is going to be immense.
Yeah. Is he the best Mr. Irrelevant ever?
No, probably.
Oh, yeah. Brady was 199, right? So, and what
he
is
was
it?
6th
Purdy
round,
was
right? 7th round. Last pick.
Yeah, I'm talking like
seventh
the
round.
last pick is
I would
Mr.
say he
Irrelevant.
already qualifies. That's a good one.
All right, we have 2 more categories. We have a random Viking, so we're gonna keep the show moving here. But that's a really interesting nugget from Brent there. A shout out to our friends over at Finch Home Solutions for helping bumbling guys like us not get electrocuted in our homes.
That's right. And guess what? When it comes to the electronic fixes around your home, DIY, not smart. Like if you're installing a door or something, knock yourself out. That's fine. But it takes only one call to Finch to get any electrical issues in your home solved. This is the time of year when you want to get your smoke and carbon monoxide detectors working properly. Finch can take care of that. Space heat heaters are also an option here because they become an issue. They put a strain on the wiring in your home. Don't leave things to chance. Finch actually has same-day and emergency services available to help at any hour. They can handle your projects big or small. Call them 612-357-2604 or visit finchhomesolutions.com. 612-357-2604, finchhomesolutions.com. They have deals right now if you tell them that you heard about Finch on Score North.
Also, there's a project that could be very beneficial for sports fans around the state of Minnesota who are looking for maybe a more convenient way to travel up and down 35W, especially during winter months where it's much more dangerous. The Northern Lights Express is a proposed passenger train between the Twin Cities and Duluth. 4 round trips proposed each day with stops in Coon Rapids, Cambridge, Hinckley, and Superior, Wisconsin, also all the way down to the airport for airport travelers. And if you want to find out more information about where this thing is at, it's considered very shovel ready. And the next step is just securing a funding commitment from the Minnesota legislature. Find more and contact your local Congress member at northernlightsexpress.org. That's northernlightsexpress.org. And stay tuned after this episode for more information about said project. Football. All right. Category number 3 here, State of the Vikings offense. KOC differences, or the KOC difference, if you will. I want to present to you guys a few of the biggest differences in trends between last year's Vikings offense and this year's Vikings offense. Let's start with fourth quarter overtime expected points added. Last year, the Vikings were 16th. This year, they were 2nd. Fourth quarter overtime expected points added. 16th last year, 2nd this year under Kevin O'Connell. Last year, the Vikings ran the ball 41% of offensive snaps, which was pretty run heavy. There's no team that runs the ball like 70% of the time anymore. Most teams are more pass happy. But a 41% run rate last year, 36% run rate this year, which I think was among the lowest. 111 penalties for the Vikings last year, only 88 penalties for the Vikings this year. That's what, like a penalty and a half per game taken off the board?
Big.
So important. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
On third down, the Vikings were 26th last year, 12th this year. You're looking for reasons. Well, how did the Vikings pull out so many wins, even though they didn't blow anyone out? They took way fewer penalties. They were better situationally in the fourth quarter and on third down. And I'll give you one more here. Last year, the Vikings made 53 trips into the red zone. This year, they made 64 trips into the red zone. So almost one extra red zone trip per game this year compared to last year. The KOC difference.
And that's how, to your point, Phil, you win close games.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. If you look at some of these statistics and trends, it's not hard to see, because the interesting thing is this is largely, as far as the potential for one-score wins go, the same team. 6-8 last year. Oh my God, they can't win. If they had only won all of those one-score games, they would have won 15 games. 11-0 in one-score games this year. That's not a fluke. Again, the sample size is too large. And so, yes, if you look at something as seemingly small, but it's not penalties taken, are you basically shooting yourself in the foot? The 2021 team absolutely did. Like, think about all the times, and it feels like a ton, that they got into the red zone last year.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I think we
Zogad.
lost him. The sports dad. We'll put him in timeout there.
It's actually a good point, too, because I was looking at this just situationally this season, and the Vikings in the red zone have been very dominant. They've actually been 8th in red zone percentage this season in terms of touchdowns that have resulted in red zone trips. So they've done a great job there. And even, again, the situationally, like their 12th and third down rate, which is it great? No, but that is still, you're getting better than league average converting on your third down, which is huge too. So the situational things, those are the things where you can look at the 2021 Vikings and 2022 Vikings with the points allowed and point scores. Yes. It's the same team. But then, all right, let's parse through the penalties, the situational, the fourth quarter, the clutch factor, and then you see the big differences there, and then you can say, okay, that is something that was maybe not sustainable year in, year out, but that is a big reason why you won 5 more games than you did the year before.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you went down a list and said, if the only thing that you told a Vikings fan at the end of last season was they're not going to know, the only details you're going to give them are, hey, so this team won 8 games last year, but next year, here's what's going to happen. They're going to make a huge jump as a fourth quarter offense. They're going to make a huge jump in terms of not taking penalties. They're going to make a huge jump on third down, and they're going to make a huge jump just effectiveness in the red zone. How do you think the season's going to play out? And the defense is going to be pretty much the same. It's not going to be very good. You'd say, well, they're probably going to win more than 8 games. Yeah. Again, you might say they'll probably win 10 or 11 games, which is probably what they are. They're like a 10 or 11 win team that kind of lucked their way into 13. And then I'll give you Dex while we wait for. I hope Judd gets back before Random Viking of the Week, because I would hate for us to miss out on the twist that's about to be thrown at us. But the fourth category here in our state of the offense is a question. It's where are the explosive plays of 20 or more yards? So last year, the Vikings had 76 explosive offensive plays. This year, they had 55. I don't have a ranking because they're separated in passing and rushing, so I added these up. But if you go category by category, the Vikings ranked 5th in explosive pass plays last year, actually, and 14th in explosive pass plays this year. Before I get to the rushing, I would say some of that is probably Thielen's drop-off, and some of it's probably just scheme-related. I think it took a while. The Vikings have generated more explosive plays in the passing game recently. I think early in the season, you're still trying to feel out scheme. On the rushing side, last year, the Vikings ranked 7th in explosive rushing plays. This year, 31st. They only have 5 runs of 20-plus yards. And I saw something on Twitter yesterday. I can't remember who it was, but it was expected yards over or under average by running backs. And Dalvin Cook was dead last in the NFL. Yeah. So
I think it's hard to quantify, too, and hard to just have a running back be relied upon for explosive play rates. Now, Dalvin did have the big explosive play, obviously, against Buffalo, which basically then kind of catapulted them out of that insanely comeback win. That was kind of the turning point when that game basically looked dead. So he deserves credit for that because he laid the foundation for that Bills comeback, if you will. But it's hard to just have a running back who has had so many now miles in the tire and rely on him. I mean, like, Derrick Henry is the Titans offense, right? Like everything goes through Derrick Henry, especially after Tannehill went down this year and they were going through Josh Dobbs and Malik Willis essentially. So it's hard to have a running back have that insanely explosive play rate. And also it's kind of hard to have explosive plays when you're not running the ball as much anymore. They were 28th in rushing attempts too. Yeah, so how can you really have a successful amount of home run plays if you're literally running the ball the 4th fewest times in the entire NFL?
If we had a pie chart of blame for the lack of, if we want to get really granular, and let's do a pie chart of blame for the lack of explosive runs, I would say Dalvin Cook's erosion is probably the biggest chunk. Then there's also sort of just schematically, like you said, they're not running the ball as often, so they're not giving themselves a chance to. And then I think interior offensive line, you got a rookie right guard, and over the last month and a half, you've been playing backup centers. And now the last couple weeks, Brian O'Neill's been out. So there's some offensive line erosion too. But this is the thing. And by the way, I think Judd's back.
Am I back?
He's back
Yes.
now. Okay.
Oh, it's very weird.
Swallowed up the New York
out.
media gremlins.
New York media is after me again, and I thought I had some good points.
Speaking of penalties derailing offense, I mean, we just had a false start there that just derailed a play.
You know what you got to do? You got to pick up and go, though.
That's right.
Next man up.
You can go back and you can listen to the third and fourth categories of the state of the offense on your own time. But I will give you this one that we were just kind of wrapping up this fourth category.
Sure.
The Vikings only had 5 explosive run plays all year, which was 31st in the NFL. And if that is probably we're not quite into the offseason speculation shows yet, but that's one of the first things I would dangle if I'm the front office. I'm Kwesi. I'm looking for cap space. I'm looking for how do I carve out some space to sign some younger, fresher free agents. I'm looking at Dalvin and saying, God, the offensive line wasn't amazing this year, but 5 explosive run plays, that ain't you, man. That's not. And it's not going to get better. He's 27, going to be 28 years old. You know, part of the reason why you pay him is so that he can pop 20-plus yard runs more often. He's got a couple of them, but it just hasn't been their thing this year.
But let's talk about Sunday. Let's talk about the run game on Sunday, because I got a stat for you.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So if the Minnesota Vikings are going to beat the Giants, here's a guy, Kevin O'Connell. The New York Giants defense is giving up 144 plus yards per game, 27th in the league. I would argue the under the radar thing on Sunday that's the most important is the Vikings exploit that. Find a way to exploit that.
Yeah.
And again, 13 personnel or maybe occasionally 23 personnel.
Oh, 23.
23.
Let's get it.
Now,
how about 33 and you take the quarterback off the field?
just a wishbone.
Yes.
You know what Boone is saying though about Ham, CJ Ham, actually makes some sense.
Mm-hmm.
He's reliable. He can block. Dalvin needs help there, so he can help to potentially, especially if Chris Reed plays, he could potentially open up holes. Like, think about this, okay? But I would argue that one of the most important things is the Vikings cannot dismiss the run game on Sunday. Like, you can't just be like, well, we're not very good there. You need to find a way. I'm not saying to have a huge day, but you need to be representative enough to make that a threat. How do you?
I agree. So there you go. That's all the stats you can handle here on this State of the Offense episode of Purple Daily. We will get to a random Viking of the week, but just for fun here, I saw this. Dan Orlovsky did this exercise on ESPN sometime in the last 24 hours. Judd, maybe we can just have you do it for time's sake here. Can you rank the 14 remaining playoff quarterbacks and see where Kirk falls?
Sure can.
Kind of curious where you think I have my own in front of me, and I'll compare and contrast it to you, and Declan can too.
Saw Matt Castle did the same thing for the 33rd team this morning too, which was a very interesting list.
I saw CBS Sports did it yesterday and had Kirk 10th or 11th.
Dude, I think Orlovsky had him like
ESPN did it
12th or 13th.
Yeah.
Like that.
All right. I will start at the top here. Obvious one. Patrick Mahomes won. There will be people that will put Josh Allen too, and I like Josh a lot, but I don't put him two.
It's Joe Burrow, right?
I put Joe Burrow too. Joe Burrow has an it factor that extends from Cincinnati to New York to Hawaii. It's incredible. No, seriously. I mean, that dude is a dude.
The window is my career.
It's just, but you know what? He says it, but he says it, and it's not like, what an arrogant SOB. It's like, he's right. Like,
it's believable.
To have that control of a podium like that. If you read that quote, you'd be like, what an arrogant.
No, it's great.
Oh, okay. Third, Josh Allen is third. Again, I think right now a lot of people put him second. I put him third. All right, at 4 it gets a little bit more difficult for me. It starts to get, because the first 3 to me cut and dry, and I'm very comfortable with how I rank them. Number 4, I have Jalen Hurts with the multiple things he brings, and seeing Gardner Minshew start at quarterback, and he's not a guy I hate. I don't love him, but I don't hate him. But the decline in that team was so steep because Hurts brings so many different elements to that offense. I put him 4th. I put Justin Herbert 5th.
I've got those guys flipped, but I wouldn't fight you. Yeah, okay. Those are the top 5.
I had Hurts 4th. I actually had, assuming that he's healthy, which I don't think he's going to play, but I had Lamar Jackson 5th.
Okay.
Number 6. Number 6, out of respect, because he's still good. Tom Brady.
And he's about to end Mike McCarthy's head coaching career.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't like that team, but I can't dismiss him. Number 7, an interesting one, and I think this could cause some debate. Trevor Lawrence.
He's incredible. Although he kind of laid an egg there in that game against the Titans. They had a bunch of chances to go down and score any points and couldn't do it. I actually have Cousins here. I have Cousins 7th. This is just for the next month. Mm-hmm. The way that he is operating in the system, the way that yes, there's been some duds. The Green Bay game was a dud.
Right.
Trevor Lawrence has also had some duds. I have Brady 6 and I have Cousins 7, just ahead of Lamar Jackson 8, Trevor Lawrence 9.
I have those flipped. I have Kirk 6, Brady 7th. I know that's crazy, but I think Brady's done. I think it's over. And if he could beat the Cowboys, I wouldn't be shocked.
A couple weeks ago, I think Mike Evans caught 3 touchdown passes, and he made some.
He's not cooked.
I thought the same thing, but I don't know.
He's not a rare blue steak like Dex would use that I usually get at Manny's. This has been left on the grill now. I think a little. It's still a good steak. Dude. Still a really good steak.
Be careful until he's out. Yeah. Be careful until
he's really tempting too. Like we haven't seen him. We haven't seen like the Peyton Manning ball fluttering through the air, Brett Favre throwing 9 interceptions. Like we haven't seen that happen to him.
Right.
Every year he comes back and goes deep and he's 45. Like, do you want that to be the way you go out? Is you just throw us 5 interceptions or something? So we'll see.
I would hope not. All right. Number 8 for me, Lamar Jackson. I have Cousins at 9. At 10, Geno Smith. Now, this might be controversial as well, and he does have 11 turnovers in his past 9 games, but I put Smith at 10. So I have Cousins at 9, Geno Smith behind him, but I have Lamar Jackson in front of Kirk Cousins.
Okay. Yeah, I've got Geno Smith 13th. So.
Okay. 11, 12, 13, and 14 for me, Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, Daniel Jones, Skylar Thompson, who's going to have to start for the Dolphins.
I've got that in that order, but with Geno Smith 13th. So Dak, Brock Purdy, Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, Skylar Thompson.
Yeah, I'm almost the same. From 10th down, Dak, Purdy, Geno, Daniel Jones, Skylar Thompson.
The fall of Dak is concerning.
It is.
14 picks in the 11 games since he came back.
Yeah, and $40-some million a year. This is why you got to be careful overpaying for non-elite quarterbacks. Teams, be careful, and then you can't build the roster around him. So, all right, there's.
I am the guy that hates Kirk today, not Phil Mackey. It's Judd Zolgad who hates Kirk because I put him 9th.
Gentlemen, it's about that time for the Random Viking of the Week here on Purple Daily, presented in part by our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company. Federated's been around for over 100 years, helping businesses maximize their success through risk management tools and resources. It's like having a great offensive line protecting your business. Federated Insurance is here to help you navigate the waters of running a company. Federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. Also, a shout out to our friends at Livia. You know, people are trying to change their lives early in the year. It's January, and Livia can be right at the center of that game plan.
That is correct, Phil. In fact, you can become, you can go from being sports dad on the left, yeah, that guy's a little chunky, huh? To sports dad on the right, that Ryan Gosling looking, just chiseled man. But
I was going to say Ryan Reynolds, but yeah.
Well, you know what? I'll take that. I was joking.
Well, Paul Newman?
I'll take that. Exactly right. And you can have the same exact success as I did, dropping 40 pounds. And here's the most important fact. It is not a diet. It is a weight control center. So it's going to help you keep that weight off. And right now, there is a Judd offer. That's right, Judd offer. If you want to become the guy on the right, just mention me, 50% off the program. So get a start on a new you in the new year, 50% off if you bring up Judd of Score North, 855-GO-LIVEA, Livia.com, LIVEA.com. That is your ticket to weight loss.
All right, I'm spazzing out here, hitting my microphone. All right, now it's time for the Random Viking of the Week here, where, in this case, Declan leads us into a battle between me and Judd.
That's right.
The last handful of Random Vikings are Mick Tinglehoff, Michael Floyd, Warren Moon, Ed McDaniel, and Stefan Diggs. Judd has a 43-25 lead all time over Declan and myself. We team up and go every other week. So Declan's going to throw out a series of clues, and we get up to 3 incorrect guesses each, and he has threatened a twist on this edition of Random Viking.
So we're going to call a little hot route. Little hot route on Random Viking of the Week. So yes, that is our typical formation of Random Viking of the Week, but we're going to start off a little differently this week.
Okay.
Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to flash on the video screen for the YouTube audience.
Oh no, don't flash. Don't flash.
Not going to flash anything of me, thankfully. But it's going to be a snapshot of this player and his statistics. Now here's the thing. You're all going to have to look at this for 10 seconds.
Okay.
10 seconds this will be up. And then I'm going to put it back on us, and then I will go and give you clues.
Okay.
After a certain amount of time, I'm then going to expand that graphic out even more to see more clues.
Okay.
That's what we're going to do here, okay?
So we can look at it when it flashes
for
up.
10 seconds.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to count down from 3.
Don't screw
And
up.
for 10 seconds, you can look at this. So for 3, 2, 1, countdown's on.
Okay. This is tough for the audio audience, but it looks like this player has played about 14 or 15 seasons.
Yeah, that's a guy that's a durable dude. Games played, bunch of 16s, which of course was the maximum amount of games played. So we're talking about a durable defensive player.
Yeah, I do realize that this is very video heavy, so our podcast audience, I'll try to explain a little bit here.
What's
So
this disrespect for our Spotify audio?
And nobody
hold on.
consulted any of the people on the
Hold
show
on.
about this.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
Phil and I
this
had no
was-
idea.
Just
This was
ignoring
an
half the
Like, are you
audience.
just
Hold
for God's
on
crushing
sake.
here.
Surly's?
This was an executive decision made by the executive producer. You saw a snapshot of these guys' statistics, and now you don't see them again. Did
Yep.
you write down anything? Did you see anything?
I did. I took 2
Okay.
notes.
Okay,
just
cool.
did.
I know.
Okay, cool.
I think I know a lot about this player with that. This is good. This is good. I
Okay.
think I have an edge on Judd right now because I think my young eyesight's better than his.
So
Look at those
for our-
bifocals he's wearing, for God's sake.
What's going on over? What's going on? What are you guys doing?
All right, so for our audio audience, we'll start with the traditional clues now. This Random Viking of the Week played in 195 games, 195 NFL games. This Random Viking of the Week was undrafted.
Oh, my guess is already out the window. Undrafted. Oh boy. The sacks were right to leave that. Okay.
This Random Viking of the Week played college football at San Diego State.
Oh my God.
Robert Griffith.
Dang it.
Holy crap.
That's really good. Yep. You nailed it.
San
I was
Diego
sniffing
State.
around. I was sniffing around too. It was a cornerback or a safety who played
Yep.
over 15 years, and
Yep.
nice job, dude.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
We didn't even get to the second part of Declan's clues experiment. Can you zoom out? What would the zoom out have looked like? Was it including teams? Okay.
So this
But
would
not
include all the teams.
years. Okay.
Not
So-
years, yeah. So it has the numbers you can see on the left to right on the YouTube audience, and I'll explain for the audio audience. That has the team names, and then the position, and then the number of games played. There's even some statistics on the right side, like he was a 2-time All-Pro, he won a Pro Bowler, or he was a Pro Bowler, etc. So yes.
Love it. Man, he played for the Vikes for a long time, and then Cleveland and Arizona. Oh, wow, Judd
was a hell of a
Zolgad
player.
on
I didn't
fire.
get to
4 straight
this
wins.
clue, which I should have just probably led with. He modeled for Sports Illustrated for Women in 2000.
Oh, he was a
I
should
can't
have
looking guy,
realize
man.
that. Yeah.
lost X.
Good looking guy. We're having a
This is-
great.
This has really
technological
been
day
a
here.
this
Yeah.
has really been a flame out of.
Ridicule.
I dropped off, and I don't know why.
Oh man. Well, we should probably end the episode before somebody gets lit on fire.
You're
by
next, Mackie.
technology here. I know.
You're next. You've dodged it. Declan's got me. It got Dex. It got Doogie. It got Royce.
We are creeping our way to a Vikings Giants playoff game on Sunday. If you missed the Trenches with Boone breakdown, all the film you can eat, You can check that out on the Purple Daily podcast feed, but the YouTube channel is going to be a better visual for you.
How much film can one eat?
We went over 9 different plays.
Well,
9
dude, that's so
different
awesome.
plays.
And I love the fact, though, that he's on the tight end train.
Yeah, you guys are thinking alike.
The tight ends.
2 of the greatest to ever play the game, Judd and Alex Boone. Different games you guys are playing.
I was going to say, what game am I playing? The game of couch?
Something like that. Yep. All right. Feedback Friday tomorrow here on Purple Daily. Daily Vikings Entertainment. See you guys. All right. Hey, everyone. Before we say goodbye on this podcast episode, we'd like to shine a light on a project that could be very beneficial for sports fans around the state of Minnesota. Maybe those of you who are looking for more convenient ways to travel up and down 35W all the way up from Duluth and all the way down to Minneapolis and the airport. The Northern Lights Express is a proposed passenger train between the Twin Cities and Duluth. 4 round trips every day with stops in Coon Rapids, Cambridge, Hinckley, and Superior, Wisconsin. And Amtrak Vice President Joe McHugh in 2019 said the Northern Lights Express is one of the most shovel-ready projects in the nation. Just need the next step of securing a funding commitment from the Minnesota legislature. And so joining me now to discuss the project and the benefits are Andrew Johnson from the Minneapolis City Council and Jim Payne, the mayor of Superior, Wisconsin. Let's start with you, Andrew. Can you speak just the benefits to maybe sports fans or people in and around the Minneapolis metro area if we can get this thing going?
Absolutely, Phil. Well, the last time we had a snowstorm like the one that's happening right now just behind me also happened to be a Vikings game over at US Bank. And I was out on the roads that day and saw literally miles of fans trying to get into the stadium, backed up, stuck in this icy condition, bad weather. And it's on days like today, back here, it's also on days like that you really can appreciate the value of a train. Just being able to go, show up at the game, enjoy yourself, have a couple extra drinks, and get back home safely, whatever the weather may be. But for all Minnesotans and for Wisconsinites as well, who are going to be connected with here with this train, more than 700,000 passengers in the first year, just starting on day one with this project, will be able to get around the state a lot more comfortably, a lot more easily, and a lot more certainty with their travel plans.
Yeah. And Mayor Payne, from your perspective, as we sort of travel up a couple hours up north, what makes this project so important from your perspective?
Well, the fact is we're sports fans too here in Superior, Wisconsin, and we live in a pretty unique community when it comes to our fan loyalties. I am very loyal to the state of Wisconsin, but Green Bay and Milwaukee are a very long way away, and Minneapolis and St. Paul are not. But as the counselor pointed out, it's tough to get there. One of the most dangerous things in Minnesota, bar none, is still Highway 35. It's dangerous to drive all 4 seasons of the year. And in the winter, he's right, blizzards become more dangerous than hurricanes and tornadoes combined. The Vikings play in the winter. But you know what? It's fun to go see the Twins too. And even if we don't want to have a couple extra drinks, let's be real, we're from Wisconsin. That's likely to happen. But it's just a hassle to have to figure out parking, to spend the gas money, to dedicate those extra couple hours where you're just in the car dealing with the stress of traffic. You need more planning. It's just fun to go down there, not worry about it, and celebrate the game the whole time. What this project offers is something like a 2-hour tailgate.
Yeah. I would also think too, like college students, either commuting holidays, whatever it is, from Duluth, Minneapolis, see family, makes it more convenient. In the last minute here, I'll start with Andrew. Maybe both of you can answer questions about. So it's considered a shovel-ready project. Need the funding. Can you speak to cost, funding, and also timeline once the shovels potentially do hit the ground?
Absolutely. Well, our most recent updates on the cost is about $85 million from the state of Minnesota. Now that will go up a little bit with the inflation that we've seen across every project, so we're getting updated numbers. But the important thing to note on that is that we have a 4-to-1 match with the federal government. So the funds are available, ready for us to just get as a state and we can get 4 times that from the feds. So that's about $425 million. And that money is going for upgrading railroad crossings across the whole corridor. So you're going to see benefits not just for riders of the train. And we really call it shovel ready because you don't really need to lay down new track. We have track all along the route that can be used today as well. So this isn't like what you're seeing with Southwest Light Rail or some of these other projects where it seems like the timeline keeps getting stretched out. This is a pretty quick start to finish project once the funding's in place.
Yeah, Andrew's right. There really aren't any shovels that necessary. It's every part of this project already exists. The cars exist, the track exists, Amtrak exists and is ready to operate this. It's a matter of committing to the funding for this year and the years to come. The sitting governors of Minnesota and Wisconsin will be seeing the Packer Viking game together on this train.
Yes. And I should mention for the audience too, you can find your local Congress member, legislator, if you want to send a message, northernlightsexpress.org, northernlightsexpress.org. Any final words to the Minnesota sports fans, I guess the Midwest sports fans listening to this or watching this right now?
We'll see you in the playoffs.
Oh, Skull Vikes. Can't wait.
Love it. Thank you both for coming on. And again, the website is northernlightsexpress.org if you're interested in more information.